Welcome, thrill seekers, to a world of spine-chilling tales and hair-raising adventures. Gather around for a frightful journey into the unknown as we delve deep into the realm of scary stories. Buckle up, hold on tight, and get ready to experience a rush of terror like never before. There was a house on the hill that everyone in the small town below knew to stay away from. It had been abandoned for years, and although no one knew exactly why, there were rumors of strange happenings and ghostly sightings. But that didn't stop a group of teenagers from deciding to explore the house one summer night. They were bored and looking for a thrill, and the stories they had heard about the house on the hill only made it more enticing. They snuck out of their homes and made their way up the winding road to the house, their flashlights illuminating the overgrown bushes and twisted trees that surrounded it. As they approached the front door, they heard a creaking sound from within. It was like the house was alive and breathing, and it sent a shiver down their spines. But they didn't turn back. They were too curious, too excited to see what was inside. The door was unlocked, and they pushed it open, the hinges protesting with a loud screech. Inside, the air was musty and thick, like it hadn't been disturbed in years. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling and furniture was covered in dust. But there was something else in the air too, something more sinister. As they made their way through the house, they heard strange whispers and footsteps behind them, but every time they turned around, there was no one there. It was like the house was alive, watching their every move. They climbed the stairs to the second floor, the wood groaning under their weight. In one of the bedrooms, they found a journal sitting on a dresser. It was old and weathered, the pages yellowed with age. The words on the page were barely legible, but they could make out a name, Emily. The teenagers were so engrossed in the journal that they didn't notice the shadowy figure standing in the doorway behind them. It was only when they heard its raspy breath and felt its icy breath on their necks that they turned around. What they saw made them scream. It was a ghostly figure, its face twisted in a permanent expression of terror and pain. It seemed to be reaching out to them, pleading for help. But before they could react, the figure disappeared into thin air, leaving the teenagers trembling with fear. They knew they had to leave, and fast. But as they made their way back down the stairs, they heard more whispers and footsteps, getting louder and louder with each passing moment. They ran through the house, their flashlights flickering and their hearts pounding in their chests. But as they reached the front door, it slammed shut with a loud bang, trapping them inside. Panic set in as they realized they were trapped, with no way out. They were surrounded by a supernatural force, and they didn't know what to do. Suddenly, the house began to shake, the walls groaning and creaking with the force of the unseen power that surrounded them. They could hear screams coming from every corner of the house, as if the spirits of those who had died within its walls were trying to warn them of the danger they were in. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, it stopped. The house was silent, the only sound the pounding of the teenagers' hearts. They cautiously made their way to the front door, half expecting it to be locked again. But to their relief, it opened easily, and they stumbled out into the cool night air, gasping for breath. They never spoke of what had happened in the house on the hill again. But they knew that they had experienced something supernatural, something beyond their understanding. And although they never returned to the house, they knew that it would always be there, watching and waiting for its next victim to come along. The house on the hill was cursed, and its dark history was something that could never be forgotten. Years passed, and the teenagers grew up and moved away, but the memories of that night stayed with them. They told their children and grandchildren about the house on the hill, warning them to stay far away. But one day, a young couple moved into the town below. They were drawn to the mysterious house on the hill and decided to explore it for themselves. They climbed the winding road, their curiosity overpowering any sense of danger or warning. As they approached the front door, they heard a creaking sound, just as the teenagers had so many years ago. The door was unlocked, and they pushed it open, their flashlights illuminating the cobweb-covered furniture and dusty floors. As they made their way through the house, they could feel a sense of unease building within them. But they didn't turn back. They continued exploring until they found the same journal that the teenagers had discovered years before. As they read through the pages, they learned about the history of the house on the hill, the tragic events that had taken place within its walls, and the curse that had been placed upon it. But they didn't believe in curses or ghosts. They thought it was all just a story, something to scare people away from the house. That was until they heard the whispers and footsteps behind them, just as the teenagers had so many years before. They turned around, but there was no one there. They brushed it off as their imagination, but as they continued exploring, the whispers and footsteps grew louder and more persistent. And then, they saw her. The ghostly figure of a woman, her face twisted in pain and terror, standing in the doorway. She was reaching out to them, pleading for help. The young couple tried to run, but the doors and windows were all locked. They were trapped, just like the teenagers had been years before. And then, the house began to shake, just as it had done before. The walls groaned and creaked, and the ghosts of the house's victims seemed to surround them. The young couple was terrified, and they knew they had to get out. They tried to force open the doors and windows, but they wouldn't budge. As they stood there, helpless and afraid, the ghostly figure of Emily appeared before them. She spoke to them, warning them of the curse that had been placed upon the house and telling them to leave before it was too late. The young couple listened, and they fled the house as fast as they could. They never returned to the house on the hill again, and they warned others to stay far away. But the house on the hill remained, its curse unbroken, waiting for its next victim to come along. The young couple had escaped, but they knew that others might not be so lucky. And so, the house on the hill remained a place of fear and terror, a reminder of the dark forces that can lurk within even the most seemingly innocent of places. The curse had claimed its victims before, and it would claim them again. As the night draws to a close, we bid farewell to the terrors that haunted us and the spine-tingling tales that kept us on the edge of our seats. Remember, the darkness may linger, but the dawn always brings a new light. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and never stop exploring the mysteries of the unknown.